राधा कृष्णाभ्याम नमो नमः। समस्त मातृशक्ति को नमन, समस्त उपस्थित श्रोताओं को नमन करता हुआ आज की वार्ता शुरू कर रहा हूं। उसके पहले जो है 3 बार हम ओम का उच्चारण करेंगे, उद्गीत करेंगे, उद्गीत प्राणायाम जिसको बोलते हैं वो करेंगे, इनहेल और एक्सहेल करके। और उसके बाद एक छोटा सा 2-3 मिनट का संकीर्तन करेंगे जिससे कि सब लोग जो है ट्यून अप हो जाए। तो ओम से शुरू करते हैं। ओम। सभी लोग कर सकते हैं एक साथ। इनहेल डीपली, अगेन छोटा संकीर्तन करेंगे। मैं पहले गाऊंगा, उसके बाद आप सभी एक साथ प्लीज फॉलो। आई विल रिक्वेस्ट एवरी वन ऑफ यू। सिंपल सी 1 लाइन जो है आपने सुनी होगी संकीर्तन। श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारी, हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा। गाइए।
हरे कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे, हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा।
श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे
मुरारे,
हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा। गाइए।
श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे, हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा।
श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे, हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा। श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे, हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा। श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे, हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा। श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे, हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा। कृष्णं नारायणं वन्दे, कृष्णं वन्दे ब्रजप्रियं, कृष्णं नारायणं वन्दे, कृष्णं वन्दे ब्रजप्रियं, कृष्णं द्वैपायनं वन्दे, कृष्णं वन्दे प्रथासुतं, कृष्णं वन्दे प्रथासुतं। हरि ओम। पांडे जी स्क्रीन शेयर करेंगे हम?
हाँ, हमने आपको भेज दिया है स्क्रीन
अच्छा।
शेयर का।
It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
क्या है?
Host disabled.
Oh no, hold on. Okay.
Screen sharing.
Okay, फिर से किया है मैंने।
फिर से किया, अच्छा। Yeah.
Now it's coming.
Just coming now.
Mm-hmm.
बिल्कुल ठीक बात है। ऐसा देखो, इसको अगर कैमरे को स्टिल रखो तो दोनों की बड़ी अच्छी आती है।
सभी को प्रणाम करता हुआ, सभी से अनुग्रह करता हुआ, we are collectively going to make a तीर्थ यात्रा with Bhagavad Gita to listen to, understand to, and digest to the words spoken by Arjun and Bhagwan Shri Krishna more than 5,000 years ago in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So that is our continuing journey. And this is the 6th discourse. And we are still in the chapter 2, which is called the Sankhya Yoga. Today we are going to introduce within this Sankhya Yoga, though the chapter is called Sankhya Yoga, some of the very unique and paradoxical ideas about the Karma Yoga. Just to remind ourselves that last time in last lesson in this chapter, we learned about some aspect of Sankhya Yoga. What is Atman? What is human body? What are the attributes of Atman? What are the attributes of dharmas of the human body? When we talk about the Atman, we do not talk about the soul or the spirit. Atman abides in all beings, whether you have a microorganism or you have a coronavirus. And we have a phenomenon of rebirth. This is not an idea, was a fact on which entire Vedic civilization depend upon, based upon. And the deha, called the biological body, go through perpetual birth and death events. These are the part of the dharma of the human bodies, but not of Atman. And I think it's better to use the term dharam kshetra or field of dharma, and will never be using the term religion under the context that we are talking about. As we progress, we have to make what we call distinction of different terms that we use in Sanskrit, and wherever we can find a close equivalent in English language. So please bear with me. Last time we talked about what we call the Kshatriya Dharma. Either slain you will get Swarga, or victorious, you will enjoy the earthly treasure. But how do you fight? How do you exercise your Kshatriya Dharma? How do you act according to Kshatriya Dharma? This is the prescription. Sukha dukhe samay kritva labha labhau jaya jayu tato yuddhaya yujvasve nevam papam vapsyasi. Treating pleasure and pain, gain and loss, victory and defeat as all alike. Become ready for battle, thus you will not incur pap. How do you fight the best way? That without caring about whether you are going to win or lose, but with full focus on fighting itself as your duty, being a Kshatriya. And keep a state of equipoise. Sambhav. The Sambhav term is a very, very wonderful. It will keep coming as we go along. It becomes Samatya Yoga, Sambhav. And actually the Sambhav and Samyavastha means dynamic balance and stability under all adverse and contradictory conditions. And this idea of Samyavastha also is the foundational idea in the Ayurveda. That we have three doshas, Vata, Pitta, Kapha. When they go out of balance, asambhava, then disease appears. Then you get disease slowly and slowly. This idea also links to, which I'm not going to talk about, give you some flavor here and there, relates to symmetries and breaking of symmetry in physics. Stability of motions, instability or catastrophic collapse of motions. All these ideas in the physical sciences also have foundation in the idea of the Samatya Yoga of Samyavastha. And I just want to remind all the listeners, wonderful, beautiful listeners, the highly intelligent and perceptive listeners, that still I will be using this course at the very first level. I'm not going to go very deep and broad, but still I will keep giving you a little bit flavor here and there about the kind of depth, unfathomable depth one can go into using some of these ideas. So today this is the background we are talking about. Today, Bhagwan Krishna introduced a yoga, a karma yoga. How do you do action? So in that one is a 240. Neha vikramana sosti pratyavayo na vidyate swalpam pyasya dharmasya trayate mahito bhayat. Very, very critically look at some of these things. I will be pointing out here and there once we go along. In this path of karma yoga, no effort is ever lost. No obstacle prevails. Even a little practice of this dharma saves from great fear. Trayate mahito bhayat. Fear is one of the psychological attributes of humanity. All animal world have a fear built in. We have also fear built in. How to get rid of that fear? Only through practicing what you call the karma yoga. Even little bit practice of this dharma, karma yoga dharma, saves the great fear. So this is one of the results and consequences of using the samatha or sambhavi yoga to act, that you will be fearless, because the fear comes from whether I'm going to defeat somebody or going to win, whether I'm going to gain or I'm going to lose. All these duality in mind, they create, due to uncertainty, they create a fear. So then again, another important aspect of not being focused and arriving at a unique perspective that you are going to act upon, to avoid bewilderment. I say, व्यवसायत्मिका बुद्धि एके कुरु नंदने बहुसा काहिनंताश्चे buddho vyavasayinam. In this path, O joy of Kurus, understanding is resolute and unitary. Eka, unitary. Many branch indeed, and the endless is the understanding of the one who is not resolute. Abhyavasayika buddhi and vyavasayatmika buddhi. Unitary and resolutory buddhi is vyavasayatmika buddhi. Only one focus. I have to do my duty with full inner strength. I'm not going to weaving. I'm not going to decide at the moment what is good, what is bad, what is this, what is that. I'm not going to bring in many understanding at the time when I have to act. Once I have decided, this is called the Vyavasayatmika buddhi, I have to be with full focus to my duty without thinking of even consequences. I do not have a fear. So bewilderment and confusion comes up when we have what we call the unresolute situation. I am not very focused. I am not very determined. हमारे अंदर निष्ठा की कमी है. निष्ठा सब another very important term. हमारे पास निष्ठा की कमी. I do not have a unitary determination to act. If that is the case, then we will be bewildered, we will be confused. And I will be talking about these terms as we go along. What does it mean? Then there's a very another important verse here, 242. Yamimam puspitam bacham pravadante vipaschita ved badar ta parthe nanadasti vadana. Undiscerning who delight in flowery words, puspitam vacham, who rejoice in discussing, arguing in the letter of Veda. Very important, Ved Badartha. Ved Badartha Parthe, saying that is there nothing else. You can go to 2000 years of history of the exegesis on Vedas. It means interpretation, understanding of the Vedas, 4 Vedas. You will find a lot of arguments, counter-argument, lot of discussion on the language itself, on the how to interpret the Veda, what kind of language the Veda have. what kind of means they have, what is the meaning of the karma, what is the meaning of Upasana Kand, Karma Kand. All these ideas have been discussed at a great length. And in this great forest of ideas and interpretation, the real action, real understanding sometimes remains hidden. That's what they're talking about. That's what Krishna is talking about. So he is now still in the background, the Karma Yoga, he has still the Karma Kand in the background of the Vedas. And he gives you more specifically the idea behind the previous verse. Kamatmana swargapada janma karma falapradam kriya visesa bahulam bhogaishwari gatim prati. Whose selves are made of desire, Kam, whose highest goal is heaven, Swarga, who are full of ritual acts for the sake of enjoyment and power, then only earn a rebirth as the fruits of these actions. Very clearly mentioned. If you are only karmakandi looking for the enjoyment and power, all kinds of pleasure, all kinds of the intermediate goals, short-term goals, long-term goals, which is nothing more than the going to heaven or Swarga, achieving the state of Swarga, where you have all outstanding means of enjoying the highest state of human life, which you could not do on this earth. Again, the second followed, Bhogaishwar prasaktanam taya prahati chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadhau na vidiyate. The discriminating between right and wrong aspect of buddhi of those who devoted to enjoyment and power and whose minds are carried away by these words of Vedas is not well established in yoga of meditation. It means if you have outwardly used the Vedas, the language of the Veda and the Karma Kand of the Vedas without going to Buddhi Yoga, that's why Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, and without focusing on a greater aspect of the human potential, is called the Samadhi, yoga of meditation. Going into Samadhi. So instead of acquiring the external Bhogaishwari, enjoyment and power on this earth, and looking for that highest degree of enjoyment and power in the in going to Swarga, Swargaloka, then they are not well established in Samadhi. It means you have to really move inward to go into Samadhi. This is what so here indication of there is something much higher than achieving the Swargaloka. Something much transcendental, much required, which is hidden within each of us. So that's the indication here. It's not defined yet completely. So here I will give you the three categories, are the broad and primary categories of motivating vritti, psychological forces which motivate us to do karma. Now again, I want to make clear here that the karma means manasa vacha karmana. All keep in mind, through your buddhi, through your manas, through your indriyas, real actions, and through your vani, manasa vacha karmana, through your speech, whenever they talk about the karma. Karma has not been explicitly defined yet, but it is assumed here at this moment the karma has a reliance and the foundation in the karma kand of the Vedas. Sat karma. So we have three important psychological forces. Bhoga vritti. Enjoy in this life, sense of enjoyment, earthly power. That's the highest goal within the bhoga vritti. And in normal situation, bhoga vritti is eat, drink, and marry. You have seen it all around. What I had to do with Bhagavad Gita, I have nothing to do with Bhagavad Gita. I have nothing to do with all these kind of high sounding ideas. I am simply happy with what I have. I have a good car, good house. I have enough money. I'm rich enough to live happily. But when such people take retirement, a lot of people go into serious psychological breakdowns. There's so many disease catch up. Psychological, mental, physical. Then whatever even we have, we cannot enjoy. So the bhoga vritti has limitations on this planet. And this can be extended if you go to the Swargaloka, for which you have to perform certain kind of right karma with right understanding. That's the highest goal for bhoga vritti is the Swarga. Then another vritti is called the yoga vritti. Highest goals of yoga vritti of all yoga tradition is transcending the bhoga vritti and going beyond it. What that beyond is? Beyond even the highest goal of Swargaloka. We will talk about as we go along. There is something beyond even this, beyond and above this. So if you are satisfied with bhoga vritti, go ahead and do it. You have freedom. Yoga vritti, you have a freedom to do it. Then I'm giving you a third one. Unattached bhog kam yoga vritti. योग में भोग का प्राप्ति और भोग में भोग की प्राप्ति में योग की प्राप्ति. I prefer for all beings under normal conditions and living the C part, subsuming and transcending the bhoga vritti. I enjoy the wonderful food, but I don't get attached to the taste of the food. I don't get attached to the food. When you have these simultaneously two vrittis, bhoga vritti, I enjoy. And then I'm not attached to that enjoyment. If I get it, wonderful. If I don't get it, wonderful. This is called the bhokam yoga vritti. I'm giving you some new dimensions. And that's I think for me, it's a very logical, very reasonable process of eventually transcending the bhoga vritti and achieving the highest state of existence. Let's move on. Very wonderful. Now here onward, there is a very, very lot of paradoxes will appear here. talk about the Vedas. Trigurna Vishya Veda Nistrigurno Bhavarjune Nirdvandavo Nitya Tasto Niryog Chemamatva Nitya Sattvasto Niryog Chem Atman Nirdvandavo. Vedas deal primarily with the three gunas, three modes, threefold modes of Prakriti, Sat, Raj, and Tam. But you are become free of the three gunas, transcend these gunas, constantly take your stand in the Sattvic mode, Sattvic wisdom. Then you become eventually eligible to transcend all these gunas, free of all dualities, period of nirdvando, free of all dualities, all pair of opposites. In this world, normally you will see day and night, sukh or dukh, pleasure and pain, disease and health and disease. I can give you a list of more than hundreds dualities that we deal with: rational, irrational, stupid, intelligent. Okay, the dualities you have in the field of politics, Republican versus Democrats. You have all kinds of dualities we every day in our life deal with. ये कड़वा है, ये मीठा है, ये अच्छा है, ये बुरा है. Even the food, even our personal relationship. Honey, I love you. Honey, I hate you. Honey, you are so beautiful. Honey, you are so ugly. Honey, you are so soft. Honey, you are so hard. All kinds of dualities we deal with. Here it says, Veda deal primarily with three gunas. Sat, Rajatam. So become free of all dualities, because all dualities are born within the three gunas. Sat, Rajatam. My question is here, is this denigration or devaluation of Vedas? That's what normally people have been interpreting. A lot of acharyas have left behind the Vedas. They say we are not going to talk about the Vedas. We have to talk about the Vedantas, without even realizing that the Vedanta do contain the salient, wonderful, hidden principles of the Vedas as well. So I say emphatically no. This simply addresses a limiting ground, scope and depth of the Vedas with reference to the state of Nirguna state, with reference to the Karma Kand. That's what is, with reference to the state of existence, with reference to the three gunas. And Krishna is going to ask Arjuna, become Nirguna, go beyond these three gunas, transcend these three gunas. So this is what really, if you go forward to the next verse, it gives you very wonderfully the basic idea. Yava narate udupane sarvata samplutodike tavan sarvesu vedesu brahmanasya vijanata. All purpose served by a small well can at once be served by the great reservoir of water. So is that all the Vedas for the Brahman who understands. Who is the Brahman now? Oh my goodness, that's what I talked about in the Brahmanatva conference. Who is the Brahman now? Who understands clearly what is the status of the Vedas. They are like a small well of water where you can go and use the water for all the purpose that you do, even including the thirst, quenching of the thirst. But if you have a greater reservoir, even you will avoid going to the small well. So here we are talking about the limitations. They are not contradictory. We are transcending. There's a bigger reservoir of the water. So I'm not, there is a small well of the water that I have to fetch the water from. Why not go for the greater reservoir which transcend the karma kand part and the ultimate goal attached to it is this attainment of the Swargaloka. Can we not go beyond it? So we have to go to reservoir. That's the relative position of transcendental state and the earthly state or state depending upon or founded upon the Sattva-Raj karma. So I will take little pause here for a second, because next one is a gem in this chapter. Okay. Just to express some idea about Sattva, Rajatam, three modes of material nature. Let me give you an example, Sattva, Rajatam example. If in this audience you have come today with the Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, only one focus, that you are going to listen the divine word of Bhagavan Krishna, which were spoken by him 5,000 years ago. And I'm going to listen those words. I'm going to try to understand the meaning behind those words, because they are two old voices of the eternity. And how can I benefit? What I will take with me after listening these words? This state of mind and buddhi is called the sattvic mode. If you have come as an audience to listen these words, but you have not ekatmika buddhi, but branched understanding, is what that understanding is? That okay, I am going to listen to the discourse, but in this discourse, I am not prepared to digest. Even I have no desire. I do not have even nistha that I could learn something and start digest it and start practicing on it. I will listen from this ear, and as soon as I leave this discourse, it will automatically go out of the another ear. This kind of a dualistic, dvandatmak attitude of mind and intellect is called the rajas mode. Third one is tamas mode. If you have come with this idea to participate in today's program, that anyway, I have nothing else to do, I'm getting bored, So I am going to kill my time by listening this discourse. I have not come here to really even listen carefully what to talk about, understanding and practicing based on that understanding. If that's the kind of mental makeup you come to this discourse, that is called the tamas mode. So every activity, every action, every idea can be discussed on the basis of sattvic mode, rajas mode, or tamas mode. Every one of us go through these modes all the time, every second. The body itself goes through these modes every time, every second. So this is I gave you one example, and I think I can move on to a little bit more and introduce this particular verse 247. Karumandevadhikaraste ma phalesu kadachane ma karma phal hetur bhumarte sangostu karmani. You have a right to engage in duties, karma, to act. Action again, mansa vacha karmana. But you do not have right to the fruits of your karma. Let not the fruits of your duty or action be your motive. Neither let there be any attachment to inaction. Karma means through engaging buddhi, manas, speech, and actual action. Oh, this is the very, very unique the prescription in this second chapter. Karumande vadhikaraste ma phalesu kadachan ma karum phal hetur bhulma te sangostu karmani. You have a right to engage in karma, but you do not have right to the fruits of your karma. And I will tell you, please note, this is the mostly misunderstood and misinterpreted verse in the popular media and among the lots of preachers, philosophers, theologians, as well as acharyas. And I have valid reason to disagree with majority of them. Majority of the interpretation that you hear, you read and listen and study, they have serious drawbacks, serious flaws, and some are outrightly wrong. And I will give you my explanation, which comes from within the Bhagavad Gita. And here is a very strong paradox or contradiction. So far we have been listening that karma will always bear fruits. Good karma will bear good fruits. Bad karma will bear bad fruits. But here you are in the previous verse, you say, well, if you have a karmanevadhikaraste, but you have no rights for fruits. So normally people say, well, this means, well, how can you do anything if you do not have any, anything about the fruits? If you don't think about the fruits, what is good karma? How can you do good karma if you do not think about the good fruits, the results, the consequences? Then how even you do karma? You cannot do karma. It says here, you have a right to engage karma. You don't have right to the fruits of your karma. You have no right to the fruits of karma. Then how will you do the karma? That's one paradox. And it is also said, like there not be any attachment to inaction. It means, since you do not have right to the karma, to the fruits of the karma, you should not think about that I should not act. I should not have any attachment to inaction, to akarma. So this is a very, very important paradox, and this paradox really rests on the idea of why this paradox. Let me give you an example of the paradox. I think I may have to because the time is come. The first session is coming to closer. So let me give you what you mean paradox. Those who have not yet focused on this in their career or in their life. Paradox or contradiction appear in every field of human action and knowledge, from A through Z, to anthropology to zebra. In every field, they appear paradoxes. Some paradoxes, and there's a wide variety of paradoxes. They appear in mathematics, they appear in physics, they appear in sciences, humanities, arts, they appear in daily activities, they appear everywhere, the paradoxes, contradictions. Let me give you a couple of examples, and before we stop at this moment, at this time, is that if I make the statement, my friend is a married bachelor. Now you can see, if my friend is a married bachelor, well, you will say this does not make sense, because how the married and bachelor can come together, how the bachelor can be married or married can be bachelor. My friend is a married bachelor. This is a paradox built due to the language used. This is a linguistic paradox. Another paradox I will give you. I was going out and I saw up in the sky, it was sunshine, but it was raining. So it was raining under sunshine. That's another paradox. This relates to what we call the situation, the physical situation, which is contradictory. If you have sunshine, you cannot have a rain. If you have a rain, you cannot have a sunshine visible on. Sun is there, but you will not see, you will not have sunshine. You cannot say that statement that yes, it's raining, it's sunshine, it's raining. This is again a paradox. Another paradox, which is what we call this is a beautiful, wonderful paradox, that is a paradox relates to what we call the ethics and morals in the field of morality or field of ethics. This paradox, if I say something like this, killing is always bad. Killing is always unethical, or killing is always immoral. If I make this statement, it creates, if I ask people, what do you say? Some will say yes. This is, I will say yes. Killing is immoral. I will say yes. Some may even say no, it is not immoral. Some may say, well, it can be moral, it can be immoral. So the statement creates several responses. It goes back to then logic. I'm not going to deal with. So if I say, okay, I had to define, because this paradox appears because of the killing and the morality and immorality has not been defined. So this is very important. And yes, yes, it is a very much ethical to kill the virus. The coronavirus has to be killed. So it is very much ethical. I go out and kill a person on the street. There is certainly no killing is certainly unethical. Same action can become ethical, moral, immoral, unethical. These are called the paradoxes. Or, for example, give me another example. I am in the army. I am a true fighting a war on the border of two countries. I'm fighting one country, other fighting other countries, and we are killing each other. And still, when I kill more people, I get more awards, laurels, though I'm killing. Same killing on the street has become immoral. Same killing when you're fighting in a war becomes moral. Situation has changed. These are called the moral paradoxes. In the Western tradition from Aristotle, there is only 0, 1, true or false. In our Vedic wisdom tradition, there is a statement can be true, can be false, can be neither true nor false, can be true and false at the same time. Several possibilities exist. This is so this is what I mean by paradox or contradiction. Sometimes you have strong paradoxes, sometimes you have strong contradiction, weak paradoxes or weak contradictions. So how do I interpret this one? Should I simply say, well, okay, I don't understand what this really, the verse means. What is going on here? I don't understand. I have to act, but I don't have right to the fruits. So with this question, Pandeyji, I will stop here.
Namaste. Thank you, Bhaiya. We open the floor for any question. Please, if you have any question, please ask Dr. Chaturvedi ji.
And I'm going, very slow. So
very good.
So this is the.
Yeah. So please feel free to ask question. हम पूछते हैं. Yeah.
चतुर्वेदी जी, मैं एक क्वेश्चन कर रहा हूँ आपको. जो अभी आप कर्मणे वो अधिकारस्ते महाफलिस कदाचन पर आपने का इंटरप्रिटेशन किया, तो उसका मैं पैराडॉक्स नहीं मानता. उसका राइट, उसमें राइट नहीं किया है. कर्मणे वो इच्छा है. फलेस मीन्स फल की इच्छा, वो राइट नहीं है. वो कोई इच्छा है. जैसे हमारी कुछ और इच्छा हो सकती है फल की, आपकी कोई इच्छा और हो सकती है. और अब वो भी तो चैप्टर 18 में इसका बहुत बड़ा डिटेल दिया गया है कि कौन से कर्म करने चाहिए और उस कर्म से क्या फल की प्राप्त होती है. और जो फल की इच्छा से कर्म किया गया है वो आध्यात्मिक नहीं है, या उसको वो डिवाइन नहीं है. तो हम समझते हैं ये डिफरेंस है. So I don't think that there is any paradox or any over statement in chapter 2.
Well, if you look at all the interpretations so far done,
और इंटरप्रिटेशन मैं केवल जो श्लोक बोलता हूँ मैं.
Yes, हम तो
not interpretation from
I agree. I'm not contradicting you. I'm agreeing that if you look at the way it is framed, it is said, and how people have interpreted it, that कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन, फल का अधिकार नहीं कदाचन।
मगर वहां पर मैं अधिकार नहीं यूज करूंगा, फले
आप ठीक है, हम ये नहीं कह रहे कि आप कह रहे हैं, हम कह रहे हैं हमारा, हम जब इसको आगे ले जाएंगे अगली बार तब आपको बताएंगे कि ये इसकी समस्या कहाँ पर पैदा होती है।
नहीं, मगर वर्ड की जो मीनिंग है हम समझते हैं उसको, हम बराबर इस ओपिनियन के हैं कि जो शब्द की मीनिंग है संस्कृत में उसको थोड़ा उस रूप से देखना चाहिए, क्योंकि फल इसमें इच्छा है, वो कि राइट नहीं है, अधिकार नहीं है। जो संस्कृत वर्ड हमने पढ़ा है।
अच्छा, क्यों अधिकार नहीं है भाई जी?
नहीं, अधिकार नहीं कह सकते, तो कोई अधिकार नहीं, वो इच्छा अलग होती है, अधिकार अधिक होता है, अलग होता है। अधिकार में पावर है कि हम जो है ये करेंगे तो ये हमारा अधिकार, राइट, हम किंग हैं, हमारा राइट है फाइट करना।
इसी बात को हम
करने में ही अधिकार है।
आपकी बात से
इच्छा अलग है, इच्छा अलग है।
कुछ कर्मों के फल के हेतु मत हो तथा तेरा
फल की इच्छा अधिकार नहीं है। जो यहाँ पे जो श्लोक कहता है वो फल की इच्छा। हाँ, तो आप आपकी कोई एक्सपेक्टेशन से आप जो काम कर रहे हैं तो उसमें डिविनिटी उतनी नहीं है।
इवन ये कहा गया है अभी पिछले और उसके श्लोक के पहले में जाइए कि इवन आपको जो है फल की इच्छा से जो काम करते हैं वो भी ठीक नहीं है।
नहीं, उसी कह रहा हूँ, उसका बहुत अच्छा इंटरप्रिटेशन
ये भी कहा गया है उसके पहले वाले श्लोक में।
मैं कह रहा हूँ चैप्टर 18 में, तो हम केवल गीता को ये चैप्टर ये श्लोक से नहीं इंटरप्रेट करते, हम सकते हैं ओवरऑल किसी भी किताब को, किसी भी चैप्टर को तो ओवरऑल इंटरप्रिटेशन करना होगा। तो आप चैप्टर 18 पढ़िए, तो उसमें पूरा कर्म के हिसाब से क्या आपको मिलेगा। और यही नहीं, वेदाज में भी लिखा हुआ है सब। और हम तो हाँ,
ऐसा है कि मैं आपसे डिनाई नहीं कर रहा हूँ आपकी बात को।
आप जो वर्ड यूज करना है वो वर्ड मत यूज करिए, राइट शब्द। हम आपसे राइट, हमारा अधिकार है वो नहीं है।
Yeah, there is another explanation which is much more comprehensive than simply इच्छा। इच्छा, फल की इच्छा भी हम नहीं कर सकते। जब कर्मयोग की बात होती है तो फल की इच्छा भी नहीं कर सकते।
तो उसका उसी का
काम कर्मयोग की बात होती है तो फल की इच्छा भी नहीं कर सकते।
चैप्टर 18 में इन सब का बहुत अच्छा एनालिसिस दिया गया है गीता में।
आपकी बात से वही मैं कह रहा हूँ, आपकी बात से मैं सहमत हूँ, मैं असहमत नहीं हूँ, लेकिन आई एम टेलिंग यू देयर इज अनदर वे ऑफ हैंडलिंग ए मोर कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव।
हम आपसे एक्सपेक्ट नहीं करते, या कोई भी जो हिंदुइज्म के प्रति, जो हिंदू हो हिंदुइज्म के प्रति बोलता है, तो मैं बहुत केयरफुल रहता हूँ उस वर्डिंग के लिए, क्योंकि जो आप बोलेंगे जो नहीं जानता तो उसको यू अधिकार, राइट यूज करेगा। मगर हम समझते हैं कि जो मीनिंग रियली है संस्कृत की में, जो कि हिंदी में या इंग्लिश में, उसके हिसाब से हम लोगों को चलना चाहिए, जिससे कि राइट मैसेज जाए। मेरा कहने का मतलब राइट मैसेज जाए लोगों को जो नहीं जानता। ठीक है, यहाँ पर तो जितने सभी लोग हैं, अधिकांश लोग जानते हैं, एक्सपर्ट हैं उसमें एरिया में, हिंदू ब्रॉटअप है सबका। मगर ये जैसे कि हम किसी को और बोलते हैं जो हिंदुइज्म के विषय में नहीं जानता बिल्कुल। और ये हमारे अनुभव भी हैं, हमारे सिस्टम में भी ऐसे लोग क्वेश्चन करते रहते हैं। और तो हम सोचते हैं कि हम लोगों को जो सही वर्डिंग है, सही जो इंटरप्रिटेशंस हैं, उसको यूज करना चाहिए।
भाई जी, वही मैं कह रहा हूं कि मैं अपने दृष्टिकोण से आपको जब आगे बढ़ूंगा तो जो आप कह रहे हैं वो उसमें आ जाएगा। वही तो मैं कह रहा हूं आपसे, हम आपको डिनाई नहीं कर रहे।
वो ठीक है, जैसे कि हमको थोड़ा अच्छा नहीं लग रहा था कि जो आप राइट की बात कर रहे थे कि फल की
हम इसलिए कह रहे हैं,
मैं जो श्लोक की बात कर रहे हैं उसकी बात
हम इसलिए कह रहे हैं जब आपको इंट्रोड्यूस करेंगे कि मैं किस तरह से इसको रिजॉल्व कर रहा हूं, देन आपको अच्छा लगेगा। तो आप उसको
वो अलग बात है, आई डोंट नो अच्छा लगे, वो अच्छा खराब की बात नहीं है। मैं केवल जो वर्डिंग है और
आपकी बिल्कुल मैं सहमत हूं, आपकी बात,
वर्ड्स हैं वो सही होने चाहिए।
मैं आपकी बात से सहमत हूं। हम ये नहीं कह रहे हैं मैं कह रहा हूं आपकी बात से सहमत हूं, लेकिन बिगर पिक्चर में जब आपको दूंगा तो आपकी बात भी उसी में निहित हो जाएगी।
थैंक यू।
वही मैं कह रहा हूं, मैं आपकी बात को कंट्राडिक्ट नहीं कर रहा हूं, आपकी बात को इनलार्ज कर रहा हूं। हाँ,
थैंक यू। और एनी क्वेश्चन किसी का है? ये वेरी नाइस डिस्कशन, अच्छा है, इट्स वेरी नाइस,
वेरी नाइस।
यस। और कोई अगर नहीं पूछ सकते हैं बाद में भी आप डॉक्टर चतुर्वेदी जी से
नहीं, हमारा अगला जो है, हमारे पास स्लाइड्स है ना, हम दिखा सकते हैं, आगे कर सकते हैं।
आई थिंक 1 घंटा हो गया भैया।
नहीं वो ठीक है, मतलब ऐसा कुछ नहीं
हाँ,
है।
अदरवाइज
ये देखिए, ये तो जो यूनिवर्सल नॉलेज है, हाँ, आप जितना है उसमें, उसके कोई लिमिट नहीं है। जो गीता रामायण जैसी किताबें हैं और जो रिलीजियस होली स्क्रिप्चर्स हैं, तो उसको जितना आप इंटरप्रेट करिए, देयर इज नो लिमिट। मगर हमारा बराबर एफर्ट रहा है कि हम बराबर कोशिश करते हैं कि जो ओरिजिनल किताबें हों रिटेन, स्पेशली इन संस्कृत, उसको हम पढ़ने की कोशिश करते हैं और उसके वर्ड्स को बोलने की कोशिश करते हैं कि उनका क्या हिंदी में क्या मीनिंग है, जो देवनागरी लिपि में। ऑफकोर्स इंग्लिश में सब से रिलीजन है, इससे सब चला जाता है, गड़बड़ हो जाता है, मगर जो संस्कृत है, हिंदी है, और उसकी अपनी मीनिंग है और उनके इंटरप्रिटेशंस भी हैं। ओके, थैंक यू संजय जी।
Okay. Okay, so if there is no more questions, we can
yeah, next time we will start from here.
Yeah.
And expand on the meaning of कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन.
बिल्कुल.
We will start from here and then expand the meaning, and answer is given actually in the Bhagavad Gita.
मैं वो बता रहा हूँ तो
I don't have to search from here. Answer is given in the Bhagavad Gita.
अच्छा है, more is better.
तो जो भी नहीं वो, अब हमें कोई ऑब्जेक्शन है आपके इंटरप्रिटेशन का, कुछ करने का, मतलब आई एम ओके, हम बस
today we don't have time, so I have all the slides. If you continue, I can continue for another hour.
नहीं वो तो हम
लेकिन
कहने का मतलब कि जो वर्ड्स हम लोग यूज करें वो प्रॉपर वर्ड्स हों
भाई,
क्योंकि उनको नहीं है, ज्ञान नहीं है उनको।
ऐसा है मैं जो अधिकार,
एक आदमी,
मैं अधिकार शब्द कर रहा हूँ, उसी अधिकार पर आपसे बात करूंगा।
हाँ नहीं, हाँ वही हम
अधिकार से ही आप पर बात करूंगा।
वो अधिकार हमको पसंद नहीं है।
मैं ये निवेदन करना चाहता हूँ कि प्रश्न का कुछ समय होना चाहिए, ये नहीं कि प्रश्न ही जो है पूरा वो बन जाए। नहीं, मैं शुक्ला जी आपसे बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ, मैं आपसे नहीं कह रहा, मैं कह रहा हूँ कि सब लोगों की समय की अपने को इज्जत करना चाहिए, उस हिसाब से प्रश्न भी इसी तरह के होना चाहिए कि वो प्रश्न चलते चले जाएं तो वो तो कभी समाप्त नहीं होंगे, मतलब तो फिर तो ऐसी बात हो गई ना, मतलब
नहीं I'm sorry, हम
हर एक
कोई
व्यक्ति जो भी बता रहा है, जैसे चतुर्वेदी जी जो बता रहे हैं, मुझे बात कर लें जी, आपने बहुत बात कर ली, मुझे भी तो कुछ कहने का हक है।
बिल्कुल बोलिए।
तो चतुर्वेदी जी जब ये कह रहे हैं, क्योंकि उनका ज्ञान संपूर्ण ज्ञान नहीं है, उनका पूर्ण ज्ञान नहीं है, वो दुनिया के सबसे बड़े ज्ञानी नहीं है, मतलब अपने यहाँ हजारों ज्ञानी हो गए पुराने समय में। तो हर एक आदमी ने अपना ज्ञान अर्जन किया और उसके हिसाब से वो इस समय बात करा। ये अपन लोग जो हैं वो तो सब मिल रहे हैं, एक दूसरे से समझ रहे हैं, और ये तो बहुत ही भाग्य की बात है कि इस तरह का कार्यक्रम हो रहा है जिससे कि सबको ज्ञान अर्जन हो। इसमें कोई शंकराचार्य थोड़ी बन जाएगा, मतलब जो कोई है ही नहीं, समाज ही नहीं है, मतलब मेरा यही निवेदन है। धन्यवाद।
नहीं थैंक यू, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, हम चतुर्वेदी जी को बहुत ड्यू रिस्पेक्ट करते हैं, हम जानते हैं उनको भी और मिल भी चुके हैं, तो ऐसा परिवार को जानता हूँ मैं, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है।
और मैंने आपसे प्रार्थना भी की, हमने कहा आपसे असहमत नहीं हूँ, मैं आपसे सहमत हूँ। हम आपको बड़ा एक स्वरूप दिखाएंगे जो उसमें आपकी बात आ जाएगी, हम तो ये कह रहे हैं, हम आपको नहीं कर रहे हैं।
आ जाएगी। चलिए आगे चला जाए।
सहमत होने से भी वो प्रसन्न नहीं है तो आप क्या करेंगे भाई?
चलिए आगे बताएंगे, चलिए चतुर्वेदी बढ़िया है। केशव जी। हाँ चलिए संजय जी।
गुड डिस्कशन है। अब हम लोग तो ठीक है, आज का कार्यक्रम हम लोग यहीं पे समाप्त करते हैं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सबके लिए।
अच्छा, थैंक यू संजय जी।
नेक्स्ट वाले
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
थैंक यू शिव जी।
आप नेक्स्ट टाइम भी सब और लोग आवे। मैं तो सबको ईमेल करता हूँ इतने लोगों को ग्रुप में, लेकिन कम ही लोग आ पाते हैं। बट मैं तो सोचता हूँ कम से कम 2-4% ही लोग कुछ इसका लाभ उठावे।
अच्छा पांडे जी, जाने के पहले 3 बार सब लोग जो है मिलके बोले ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ठीक है बोल। हाँ
ओम नमो
भगवते वासुदेवाय नमः।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नमः। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नमः। हरि ओम हरि ओम।
सबको प्रणाम।
सबको प्रणाम, सबको नमस्कार। बहुत अच्छे, बहुत ही बढ़िया रहा।
नमस्ते।
वेरी नाइस एंड एवरीथिंग एक्सप्लेन। ठीक है, चलिए संजय जी।
ठीक है, ओके।